Picture the first 10 minutes of a real peer-level war. Not a movie war, a modern war. The kind where the first wave isn't fighters, it's missiles, and the first target isn't troops, it's concrete, runways, fuel farms, hangars. Because if you can trap an air force on the ground, you win before the dogfight even starts. Now imagine this, a convoy rolls into a clearing, a trailer stops, a black aircraft is standing upright like a rocket. No runway, no airbase, no long taxi. It launches straight up, transitions forward, and suddenly, you've got fighter-class air power in the sky from a place the enemy never even thought to look. That's the promise behind Shield AI's new XBAT. And if it's real, it doesn't just change how Drone-Wingmen fight, it changes where air power can exist. And what you're about to discover will completely change how you think about the next air war. Because the most important air power breakthrough might not be stealth. It might be air power without runways. Before we dive in, small favor. Over 98% of you watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it helps us bring you more deep dives like this. So hit subscribe. And if you're proud of American innovation pushing the boundaries of what's possible, type proud in the comments. Break down what the XBAT actually is and why it could rewrite the rules of air superiority. The problem nobody talks about. Runways are giant hit-me signs. Most people think air dominance is about the jet. F-35 versus J-20, NGAD versus whatever comes next. But in the real world, air dominance starts with something way less glamorous. Can you launch at all? Runways are predictable. They're visible from space. They're fixed targets. And in the Indo-Pacific, where distances are massive, your runways and tankers aren't just support. They're the center of gravity. So when Shield AI calls the XBAT air power without runways, they're pointing at the biggest vulnerability in modern air power. And this is where it gets interesting, because a lot of Drone-Wingman concepts still depend on the same old foundation: runways, fuel trucks, airfields. The XBAT is trying to delete that requirement. What is XBAT, really? Here's the simplest way to understand it. XBAT is being pitched as an AI-piloted vertical takeoff and landing fighter-like drone, designed to operate in contested environments. A collaborative combat aircraft, a drone-wingman, or, if needed, a standalone strike and counter-air asset. But the reason it's causing such a stir is because it combines four things that normally don't live in the same sentence: VTOL, range, multi-role, autonomy. That combination is what makes it dangerous, and it's why you're seeing phrases like revolution in air power. Now let's walk through the wow factors, because this is one of those stories where every layer makes the previous layer look small. Wow factor number 1. It launches from a trailer, not a base. XBAT is designed around a launch and recovery vehicle, a trailer, from road to air in minutes. Think about how insane that is. Your airbase becomes something you can tow, disperse, hide, move. That means, instead of defending a handful of massive airfields, you can distribute your air power across dozens, maybe hundreds, of unpredictable locations. A clearing, a stretch of road, an island pad. Even the deck space that used to belong to one aircraft can now hold multiple. And if you're wondering why this matters so much, here's the cliffhanger. Because runway independence is only truly terrifying when you pair it with range. Wow factor number 2. 2,000 plus nautical miles changes the map. A lot of drones can take off from weird places, but they usually pay for it with range. That's where XBAT tries to break the mold. Shield AI claims XBAT has more than 2,000 nautical miles of range with mission payload. Think about what that means in the Pacific. That's island hopping without needing a traditional airbase. That's the ability to launch from a ship, strike deep, and recover somewhere entirely different. And it's not just about range, it's about tanker independence. Because tankers are the soft underbelly of modern air power. If your entire air campaign needs tankers to survive, and the enemy can threaten tankers, your campaign gets smaller and smaller. That's why one Shield AI executive summarized it so bluntly: VTOL plus range solves survivability on the ground and dependency on tankers. And now we arrive at the part where this stops sounding like a drone and starts sounding like a fighter. Wow factor number 3. It's not a slow drone. It's built to keep up. Here's where most drone-wingman concepts hit a wall. They're useful, they're affordable, but they can't keep up with manned fighters in speed and tempo. XBAT is being pitched as a different class. Reports describe it as supersonic, with a ceiling around 50,000 feet and capable of sustained maneuvering in the fighter-like envelope. Now, let me be very clear. Those are claims and targets, not a combat-proven reality yet, but the design choice behind them is real, because Shield AI is pairing it with a real fighter engine family. which brings us to the wait, what moment. Wow factor number 4, a real fighter engine with thrust vectoring. XBAT isn't being powered by some small business jet engine. It's being paired with the GEF-110, the same engine used in aircraft like the F-15 and F-16, according to announcements from Shield AI and GE. And here's the critical part. It's not just the engine, it's the nozzle, a thrust vectoring exhaust system designed to help enable vertical operations and enhance maneuverability in forward flight. That's the part that should make you stop scrolling, because when you combine VTOL, a fighter class engine, and autonomy, you're not building a cheap drone, you're building a platform that can do something fighters do without risking a pilot. Now, quick retention check, 3 minutes. That's when most people click away. But stay with me, because the next part is where XBAT stops being a cool aircraft and becomes a totally new model of air power projection. Wow factor number 5. Air power without runways means air power without permission. Let's zoom out. Why is runway independence so strategic? Because bases aren't just infrastructure, they're politics, access agreements, host nation approvals, vulnerability to public pressure, predictable deployment footprints. A runway-based force shows up like a parade. A runway-independent force shows up like a ghost. That's why Shield AI's leadership called it the holy grail of deterrence. Because if you can launch combat air power from ships, islands, and austere sites, you change the entire burden of defense. Instead of concentrating everything into a few vulnerable hubs, you spread it, you survive. And survivability is what creates persistence. Now, the obvious question is, okay, it launches, it reaches far, it keeps up, but what does it actually do? That's where the next wow factor hits. Wow factor number 6. It's built to be multi-role, not single-use. Most people think Drone-Wingman means one thing, missile truck. Carry extra missiles for the manned fighter. That's part of the future, sure. But XBAT is being pitched as a multi-role platform strike, counter-air, electronic attack, ISR. And crucially, it's being designed with internal bays for air-to-air and air-to-surface weapons, plus external hardpoints for larger strike weapons when stealth isn't the top priority. And it's being pitched with a sensor suite that covers active and passive modes across air-to-air, air-to-ground, and air-to-surface. In other words, it's not just a shooter. It's a sensor node, a jammer, a scout, a strike asset. And the moment you get a multi-role drone that can operate in contested environments, you don't just add mass, you add options. But none of this matters if it can't survive without constant control, which is why the real secret sauce isn't the airframe, it's the brain. Wow factor number 7. Autonomy that's built for GPS and comms-denied war. If you need constant communications to control your drones, you don't have drone wingmen in a peer war. You have expensive paperweights, because comms get jammed, GPS gets attacked, links get spoofed, networks get degraded. Shield AI's entire pitch is that HiveMind, the autonomy software, was built for exactly that. Environment, comms denied, degraded, limited, meaning the aircraft can keep executing tactics without someone flying it like a video game. And we've already seen versions of this autonomy ecosystem demonstrated in high-profile testing, like the X-62A Vista program, where autonomous software flew a modified F-16 in air, combat testing. Again, details are classified, but the direction is clear. The future isn't remote control, it's mission autonomy. And mission autonomy is what makes dispersed, runway-independent air power feasible. Because now your drone wingmen aren't tethered, they're coordinated, which leads directly into the most important wow factor of all, the one that changes air power projection forever. Wow factor number 8. This is a new model of air power, distributed combat nodes. Here's the big idea. XBAT isn't trying to replace an F-35 one-for-one. It's trying to change the geometry of the battlefield. A traditional air campaign looks like this. Big base, big runway, big footprint, big tanker plan, big predictability. A runway-independent CCA model looks like this. Small nodes, multiple launch points, constant movement, unpredictable vectors, survivable mass. And there's one number Shield AI highlights that makes the concept feel real. 3 XBATs fitting into the footprint of one legacy fighter in expeditionary conditions. More aircraft in less space means more sorties. More sorties means more tempo. And tempo is what turns technology into dominance. Now, does that mean XBAT will change everything tomorrow? Number. Not yet. It still has to prove the hardest parts. Flight testing, transitions, reliability, sustainment, real-world autonomy under stress. And it has to prove it at scale. But here's why this matters right now. Because every major air force is racing toward collaborative combat aircraft. Some are optimizing for cost, some for stealth, some for mission specialization. XBAT is aiming at something different, runwayless fighter class presence. And if it works, it doesn't just add drones to the fight, it changes where the fight can happen. The takeaway. So why does XBAT change everything for drone-wingman air combat forever? Because it attacks the most fragile parts of airpower: runways, tankers, predictability, concentration. It offers a model where combat airpower can appear from places that don't look like airbases, move like ground units, and fight like aircraft. That's a new era, not just of drones, but of deterrence. Recap. Here's what to remember. XBAT is being pitched as an AI-piloted VTOL collaborative combat aircraft. The trailer-based launch and recovery concept turns airpower into something mobile. The claimed 2,000-plus nautical mile range plus VTOL challenges tanker dependence. A fighter-class engine and thrust vectoring are meant to enable VTOL and performance. Multi-role design means it's not just a missile truck, it's a flexible combat node. Autonomy designed for GPS/comms denied environments is the key to survivability. And the big shift is the model: distributed, runwayless airpower projection outrow plus CTA. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think runwayless fighter drones like XBAT are the future? Or do you think the physics, logistics, and testing reality will slow this down? Drop your take in the comments, and if you're proud of the engineers and operators building the next era of airpower, type proud, so we know you're part of this community. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe, because the future of air combat isn't just about who has the stealthiest jet, it's about who can keep launching when the first missiles hit. And if airpower without runways becomes real at scale, the next air war will look nothing like the last one. Until next time, stay sharp. Peace comes from strength.